want to impose on society, till they rob its followers of all freedom and independence of will, and they soon are obliged to live for a world that in secret they despise and loathe; for a world, too, that usually regards them with contempt, because they dare not act with an independence which would be crushed directly it was displayed. And I must freely confess to you that I do prize and enjoy my present liberty in this country exceedingly. In this we possess an advantage over you, and over those that inhabit the towns and villages in this country, where I see a ridiculous attempt to keep up an appearance that is quite foreign to the situation of those that practise it. Few, very few, are the immigrants that come to the colonies, unless it is with the view of realizing an independence for themselves or their children. Those that could afford to live in ease at home, believe me, would never expose themselves to the privations and disagreeable consequences of a settler's life in Canada. Therefore this is the natural inference we draw, that the emigrant has come hither under the desire and natural hope of bettering his condition, and benefiting a family that he has not the means of settling in life in the home country. It is foolish, then, to launch out in a style of life that every one knows cannot be maintained. Rather ought such persons to rejoice in the consciousness that they can, if they please, live according to their circumstances, without being the less regarded for the practice of prudence, economy, and industry. Now we bush settlers are more independent. We do what we like, we dress as we find most suitable and most convenient. We are totally without the fear of any Mr. or Mrs. Grundy, and having shaken off the trammels of Grundyism, we laugh at the absurdity of those who voluntarily forge afresh and hug their chains. If our friends come to visit us unexpectedly, we make them welcome to our humble homes, and give them the best we have; but if our fare be indifferent, we offer it with good will, and no apologies are made or expected. They would be out of place, as every one is aware of the disadvantages of a new settlement, and any excuses for want of variety, or the delicacies of the table, would be considered rather in the light of a tacit reproof to your guest for having unseasonably put your hospitality to the test. Our society is mostly military or naval, so that we meet on equal grounds, and are, of course, well acquainted with the rules of good breeding and polite life; too much so to allow any deviation from those laws that good taste, good sense, and good feeling have established among persons of our class. Yet here it is considered by no means derogatory to the wife of an officer or gentleman to assist in the work of the house, or to perform its entire duties if occasion requires it; to understand the mystery of soap, candle, and sugar making; to make bread, butter, and cheese, or even to milk her own cows; to knit and spin, and prepare the wool for the loom. In these matters we bush ladies have a wholesome disregard of what Mr. or Mrs. So and so thinks or says. We pride ourselves on conforming to circumstances; and as a British officer must needs be a gentleman, and his wife a lady, perhaps we repose quietly on that incontestable proof of our gentility, and can afford to be useful without injuring it. Our husbands adopt a similar line of conduct. The officer turns his sword into a ploughshare, and his lance into a sickle; and if he be seen ploughing among the stumps in his own field, or chopping trees on his own land, no one thinks less of his dignity, or considers him less of a gentleman, than when he appeared upon parade in all the pride of military etiquette, with sash, sword, and epaulet. Surely this is as it should be in a country where independence is inseparable from industry, and for this I prize it. Among many advantages we in this township possess, it is certainly no inconsiderable one that the lower or working class of settlers are well disposed, and quite free from the annoying Yankee manners that distinguish many of the earlier settled townships. Our servants are as respectable, or nearly so, as those at home. nor are they admitted to our tables or placed on an equality with us, excepting at bees and such kinds of public meetings, when they usually conduct themselves with a propriety that would afford an example to some that call themselves gentlemen, viz., young men who voluntarily throw aside those restraints that society expects from persons filling a respectable situation. Intemperance is too prevailing a vice among all ranks of people in this country, but I blush to say it belongs most decidedly to those that consider themselves among the better class of emigrants. Let none such complain of the airs of equality displayed towards them by the labouring class, seeing that they degrade themselves below the honest sober settler, however poor. If the sons of a gentleman lower themselves, no wonder if the sons of poor men endeavour to exalt themselves above him in a country where they all meet on equal ground, and good conduct is the distinguishing mark between the classes. Some months ago, when visiting a friend in a distant part of the country, I accompanied her to stay a few days in the house of a resident clergyman, curate of a flourishing village in the township of . I was struck by the primitive simplicity of the mansion and its inhabitants. We were introduced into the little family sitting room, the floor of which was painted after the Yankee fashion, instead of being carpeted; the walls were of unornamented deal, and the furniture of the room of corresponding plainness. A large spinning wheel, as big as a cart wheel, nearly occupied the centre of the room, at which a neatly dressed matron, of mild and ladylike appearance, was engaged spinning yarn. Her little daughters were knitting beside the fire, while their father was engaged in the instruction of two of his sons. A third was seated affectionately in a little straw chair between his feet, while a fourth was plying his axe with nervous strokes in the courtyard, casting from time to time wistful glances through the parlour window at the party within. The dresses of the children were of a coarse sort of stuff, a mixture of woollen and thread, the produce of the farm and their mother's praiseworthy industry. The stockings, socks, muffetees, and warm comforters were all of home manufacture. Both girls and boys wore moccasins of their own making. Good sense, industry, and order presided among the members of this little household. Both girls and boys seemed to act upon the principle that nothing is disgraceful but that which is immoral and improper. Hospitality without extravagance, kindness without insincerity of speech, marked the manners of our worthy friends. Everything in the house was conducted with attention to prudence and comfort. The living was but small, the income arising from it, I should have said, but there was a glebe land and a small dwelling attached to it, and by dint of active exertion without doors, and economy and good management within, the family were maintained with respectability. In short, we enjoyed during our sojourn many of the comforts of a cleared farm, poultry of every kind, beef of their own killing, excellent mutton and pork. We had a variety of preserves at our tea table, with honey in the comb, delicious butter, and good cheese, with divers sorts of cakes, a kind of little pancake made from the flour of buckwheat, which are made in a batter, and raised with barm, afterwards dropped into boiling lard and fried; also a preparation made of Indian corn flour, called saporn cake, which is fried in slices and eaten with maple syrup, were among the novelties of our breakfast fare. I was admiring a breed of very fine fowls in the poultry yard one morning, when my friend smiled and said, "I do not know if you will think I come honestly by them." "I am sure you did not acquire them by dishonest means," I replied, laughing. "I will vouch for your principles in that respect." "Well," replied my hostess, "they were neither given me nor sold to me, and I did not steal them. I found the original stock in the following manner. An old black hen most unexpectedly made her appearance one spring morning at our door. We hailed the stranger with surprise and delight, for we could not muster a single domestic fowl among our little colony at that time. We never rightly knew by what means the hen came into our possession, But suppose some